What's up, guys? I just want to bring you a quick video showing you my Paragon and skill layout from my Frozen Orb Sorceress. If you haven't seen my video yet on that build, destroying a Nightmare Dungeon 20 levels above me, and also running 3-minute dungeon speed clearings, be sure to check that out. For now, we're going to take a look and showcase, get a little more in-depth look at how this build works. Before we do that, though, I want to show you, give you guys a tip for the day. Where I'm standing at here is in Kyrgyzstan. This is a spawn of a rare elite. Drops these wands of Ave Maria. If you guys don't know, rare elites can drop items above level 820, exceeding the item level cap. And there happens to be a guy here with me who has an 833 wand and an 844 offhand. So my offhand's 802 and it does 1240 something damage, and this one does 1504. Huge increase in base damage. Again, your base damage is multiplied by your weapon damage here and your intelligence skill damage. That's the first calculation that goes into all of your final damage. It's those two going together, right? So those two are both very important in getting those wands or getting your weapons those high levels. Crazy. So the wand drops from here. The offhand drops down near Gay Cole, down here in this area. It's the one with the cultist leader and the 4 people in front of him. So be sure, if you're not out here already, be sure to be farming those. Alright, so taking a look here, I'm not going to go over gear too much. If you want, there's plenty of guides out there talking about what kind of things you need to prioritize for gear, but I will leave just one tip reiterating what's out there, is that if you have gear, you want to, when you're building your gear, you want to focus as much as you can on vulnerable damage, because that's a new multiplier, and when you're looking at your aspects, if you have this little X there, you deal 20% X, that means that it's a multiplier effect. So you want to have as many multipliers as you can, and then vulnerable multiplies with all the other additives. With all the other additive things like close, frozen, chilled, etc. Alright, so going into skills, what we have here is I put points into Firebolt. Both Firebolt and Frostbolt have mana regeneration. Early on, you're going to need this. You don't really need the chill effect from Frostbolt because you have the Frozen Orb. So either one is fine, really, for generating mana. But our enchantments, Firebolt gives us burning to all direct damage spells, which would include Frozen Orb. And we really want to have that for damage reduction as we're pushing higher content. Whenever we're not doing higher content, we're going to use the Ice Shards enchantment. That's just going to help our clear speed out, get us to clear dungeons faster, get faster XP, and find items. So going down into our core skills, Frozen Orbs are bread and butter. We want to max this, and we want to make sure that we get greater Frozen Orb, which gives our Frozen Orb gives our Frozen Orb explosions a chance to make enemies vulnerable. This is a 25% flat, not a 25% lucky hit. And that's important because lucky hit would first be multiplied by Frozen Orb's lucky hit chance, which is 5%. So if it was a lucky hit, it would be 5% times 25%. But since it's not, it's just 25%, which means that you're going to keep things almost perma-vulnerable. Ice Shards, I'm putting my final points in this as I finish my Renown. You have some flexibility with those final points, but I've just decided to put them in here for faster clear speeds. As you're starting up, before you reach level 20, Frozen Orb is pretty weak. You're going to need some aspects to make it kind of come to life. It does start off costing 50 mana, I think. So you're going to probably want to start Ice Shards up to level 20, and then once you get some aspects, you can kind of move into the Frozen Orb build. These are Elemental Dominance. When we cast above 50, you get a new multiplier. That's great. Glass Cannon, more multiplier damage. That's good. For Ice Armor, I just have it for the just 1 point for the mana regeneration. Frost Nova, I have it for when I kill people, I get the cooldown back faster. A little bit of damage reduction here, completely optional. We do want the lucky hit. This built into a lot of things in the uh, cold spec in general that help us get our mana back faster, or such as proccing Avalanche, which is our keystone that we're going to use. An example of this is down here. Lucky hit, cold damage against vulnerable enemies has a 20% chance to generate 15 mana. So again, this is where I'm at now with my lucky hit, 5% times 20%, right? So this is things like this are why we're going to want to have this lucky hit. Pretty much all these cold ones are going to do damage. We're going to want that. This is damage while we have the barrier, or sorry, more chill, so we freeze things faster. This is frost, give a chance to instantly freeze. That's great. We have Blizzard for mana generation. If you're comfortable with your mana, or sorry, not mana generation, but to lower the cost of our Frozen Orb. If you feel like you don't have issues playing this Frozen Orb build with mana, you can probably take this out and use things like Deep Freeze. Especially if you're on hardcore, it's probably the way to go. You're going to want to get that extra immune to save your life. Moving down, this is pretty much just all damage. Damage to vulnerable. Again, this is get mana. This is damage to chilled and frozen, and this is damage to elites. We want all that stuff. And then our keystone is avalanche. The other option is shatter, but shatters to me really seems more like making your direct damage to a single target explode to targets around it. More of an ice shards build. Or perhaps if you need a little bit more AoE and you have some, but you want more, then maybe you can use Shadow there. But hands down, for what we have plenty of AoE. We're going to want to get that AoE more often and get it to do more damage. So Avalanche is definitely what we want for our keystone. Going into Paragon, starting off here, my glyph is just for mana regeneration. This first little area is not fantastic. Let's see if this guy's going to drop anything for us. Ancestral Wand. Close. 815. My current one's 816, so not quite enough really. Close. We keep getting higher. As I've been waiting here about an hour, I'm getting higher and higher. Okay, getting back into Paragon. This first board doesn't give you a lot of great options, so I'm just running a little bit more mana regen for the glyph. Maybe as I raise up another one, I'll choose something else, but that's where I'm at right now. We went the damage route. Going up to the next board, this is Icefall. This is great as a second board because you get that barrier. A lot of your aspect mechanics give you multipliers for barriers, and multipliers while you have a barrier. And then there's a lot of cold damage and chilled damage, and even some early damage reduction from chilled enemies on here. So it's really a great board to go to for level 2. Gives you a lot of flexibility for not level 2. It's great for your first chosen board. It gives you a lot of flexibility with damage or damage reduction. And then going into my next board, earlier on I was looking for a little bit more damage reduction, so I went into the enchantments board here. The enchantment thing I don't really care about at all, but there's a lot of resist all in here. As my intelligence gets higher up, I'm probably going to move out of this board. Maybe once we get closer to 500 intelligence, I'm going to move out of this board and switch to the vulnerable board. I have plenty of damage for what I need right now, but I know I'm going to want to get more and more. And as I get higher intelligence, my resists are going to be covered by intelligence. And so I'll be able to pull out of this board and switch into the vulnerable board. For the glyph here, I'm running Frostbite. Frostbite gives you extra damage to chilled for willpower purchase. Both this socket and the socket below have the same amount of available willpower. Early on, I used that here. And then once I got this to my next radius and up to this board, I moved it up here. And I'm now using the 25% bonus here for the damage reduction on this node. So I get enhanced damage reduction for the reinforced glyph here. Starting off, you may want to have more damage than damage reduction. Makes sense. You'll probably want to start off with this Frostbite glyph down here, or maybe even another one that gives you some other damage bonuses. And then again, I'm most likely, as I get a little bit higher level, get a little more intelligence, I'm going to switch this board out for the other ice board, which is Frigid Fate. And there's 2 vulnerable damage options here that I'll probably be pursuing. Which options that I'm going to be pursuing as my primary push on this board. All right, so that covers Paragon and skills. I'll quickly go over my mentality as I was leveling up the character and going forward, stat priority wise. Early on, you're going to want to get as much damage, as much as your additive damage bonuses as you can. You're going to want things like plus damage to chilled, plus cold damage, plus damage to frozen enemies. Those are the strongest increase early on to your damage over intelligence, things like that. Intelligence gives you small damage increases to your primary stats. Small damage increases to your skill damage, which is early on, it's just part of your primary, your first stage calculation for damage. But it doesn't give you considerable upgrades early on. It's better later on. What are these mobs? I'm trying to do a video here. Okay, so going into, as we get higher level, we're going to transition our priority out of, on gear wise, out of those additive stats, and we're going to want to put more focus on vulnerable, rerolling things into vulnerable damage where we can, and then also finally putting points into intelligence. Once we're happy with our defense, happy with where our bonus to additive stats are. Just for example, I have plus 230 damage to chilled and almost 300 to cold, so I'm pretty happy with that level. I'm going to start getting some pretty serious diminishing returns from increasing this more. So I want more damage to vulnerable since it's a multiplier. And then after that, I want more to intelligence because that's going to give me a bigger bonus to all my multipliers, right? All right, so that pretty much concludes the more in-depth look at this build. Definitely try it out if you're using ice shards right now and you hate that clunky playstyle and want something that feels more like a sorcerer from Diablo 2. Sorceress from Diablo 2. Check this out. Check out the build. You don't need that much to make this build viable. I've tried some of the other builds using their uniques out there, and they're just so clunky, and they don't feel great. But this build, you don't need much to make it feel good and start clearing content. And then its ceiling cap is seemingly very high. So I appreciate you guys watching. Drop a like, leave a subscribe on the channel. I really appreciate it.